So I'll admit, I've always had a bias against iPhone, mobile phone filmmaking. I mean, since I was a kid, I was recording things first with my iPod Nano, making stop motion videos when I was in middle school. Later on, using my LG G4 Android phone in high school to film comedy sketches with my friend. I mean, I used the cameras that I had available, but when I eventually got a large sensor camera, a Canon T2i when I was about 16, I remember just being blown away by the quality difference of using an actual camera. And when I'm talking about quality, I don't just mean the fact that the resolution was higher. In fact, I think it actually wasn't. I think even back in 2016, my LG G4 was capable of filming 4K, but it just looked really digital. It looked overly sharpened, it looked fake. The Canon T2i, which even at the time was a really old camera and shooting 1080p, just gave this much softer, dare I say, filmic look that was more organic, and I overall just liked more. I thought it looked better. And I think ever since then, I've just never really thought that phones could do that, could give you that same kind of quality. I mean, we're all so used to phone footage at this point. It's all over TikTok, Instagram, all over the internet. We're all just kind of used to how it looks and okay with it. But I think those of us, especially in these filmmaking spaces, don't tend to think of it as looking particularly good. When the iPhone 15 Pro came out, I remember watching a lot of YouTube videos of it and even seeing some test footage that made me think, okay, this is a significant step up. But I just think overall I wasn't completely blown away from what I saw. When I got an iPhone 16 Pro last year, upgrading from my 13 Pro Max, I was initially pretty excited about using the camera, but I remember first getting the log shooting set up on there and just seeing the grayed out footage, which did overall look less sharp, but historically I've never really known how to grade log footage very well. I've messed around with it at times, despite having worked around cameras for years. I'm a little bit embarrassed to admit it's not something I'm really much of an expert in. So the fact that the log footage looked the way it did coming out of the iPhone, I just didn't really feel like I wanted to put in the time to learn how to color grade it, though I'm sure it would have looked better. That's when, after doing some more experimenting with the Blackmagic Camera app, I realized that you basically could just, in the app, set it up so that you're shooting in log, also shooting in a compressed format, so using less space, and finally get a LUT baked into the footage, just using the Apple conversion LUT. And essentially what you can do is basically just shoot the camera without doing any type of post-processing work, and the footage ends up looking significantly better. So that's really what we wanted to show in this video, is what shooting in the Blackmagic Camera app with the baked-in LUT in a compressed format, putting on this K&F concept variable ND filter, which has been a great filter, but to be honest, I think any ND filter you put on your iPhone would probably achieve a similar result. To be clear, for those of you who aren't familiar with an ND filter, the reason that we're doing this is basically when you put the ND filter on the camera, what this allows you to do is keep the shutter speed lower. So usually when someone's filming with an iPhone outside and it's bright, what's happening internally is the shutter speed is just getting super high, and that's basically how the phone can compensate for that light. So it leads to that somewhat artificial look where the motion is not filmic, it's definitely not lifelike. So by having the ND filter on there, to be clear, with this kind of ND filter, it wasn't always possible to get that perfect 1/50th shutter speed, 1/48th shutter speed that we were looking for, but we were always able to keep it a lot lower. We weren't going into the 1/1000, 1/2000 range, 1/3000 range you're usually getting without an ND filter. So overall, it made a huge difference in the quality. So during the video, we're showing a variety of example footage that we took with this setup, and overall, I think it looks significantly better. I mean, especially some of the shots we took at the beach with the wide-angle lens here on the iPhone, I was honestly kind of blown away. It was by far the best footage I'd ever taken with an iPhone, and there were several instances when we were filming where I was just absolutely not expecting it to look this good. And I think that really one of the points that we're trying to make here is nowadays, way more people are filming on their phones, like we talked about earlier. And there are a lot of YouTube channels where I've been seeing where people are really just filming on the iPhone, and it has that iPhone look like we talked about. I really bet if you were to do what we did here in this video, put on the ND filter, shoot in the Blackmagic app, bake in the LUT, you're probably going to have viewers asking you if you got a new camera, if you switched to a whole new setup. And really, it's just putting on a $20, $25 ND filter and making some changes in your camera settings, and you can get a completely different look. I think a lot of what this really comes down to is, of course, taste and preference. I think the default look you're getting out of an iPhone is kind of broadcasty, kind of like news camera footage, which some people like for sure. I know for me though, I always want things to look kind of more like they were shot on film. And I do feel that a lot of the example footage that we have here in this video does kind of have that more natural look. I feel like particularly, let's say you wanted to shoot a documentary. A setup like this would honestly be perfect, because even with a small camera like my Canon R8 that I have right here, this is definitely pretty small by large sensor camera standards, but I think just like in society, if you come out with a camera like this, people tend to think you're filming something more legitimate per se. And let's say you're trying to interview subjects, they might be a little less comfortable talking to you if you're holding a camera like this. Versus you got the iPhone, you got, this somewhat silly looking filter on it, but still, it's a more casual look, and I think that particularly in a documentary setting where you're either trying to not make it obvious that you're filming, or maybe just trying to get the most natural reaction from your subjects as possible, having something like this is really a great option. And I'm admitting, for someone like me who's been biased against iPhone or mobile filmmaking for many years, I'd feel comfortable using this. I mean, I frankly hardly ever use my Canon R8 at this point. It mostly just sits in the camera bag. So if I want to go out and film some stuff, I would just use this iPhone setup, and not even necessarily with the ND filter. I mean, obviously it's better to have it, but especially at night, there's times where it's not necessary. I've included a few sample shots in this video that are just things that I got when I was out in my daily life and saw something that I thought might be worth filming. And I don't know, I think just as someone who loves cameras, who loves filmmaking, knowing that this kind of quality is possible out of just the phone is awesome. And again, it's been like this since the iPhone 15 Pro days. There are plenty of Android phones that can do this. But I think the point I really want to make here is that I know a lot of you probably, like me, are aware that log footage isn't super easy to work with, and maybe that's dissuaded you from even trying this, but the setup we're using in this video doesn't require any post-processing. It's literally just knowing how to shoot with manual settings on your phone, which I think most of you probably do if you're watching a video like this, and then putting on the ND filter, and your quality absolutely changes. So anyway, this is just kind of a quick video more or less, but just kind of wanted to show you guys what is possible with the iPhone, and thank you very much for watching.